Season's greetings, everyone! I am Professor Voice, and this is Undramatic Story Hour for however long it takes. Tonight we are doing a wonderful Hanukkah-themed reading of Hershel and the Hanukkah Goblins, written by Eric Kimmel and illustrated by Trina Shaw-Hyman. I'm rather broken up over that name. Allow us to begin! It was the first night of Hanukkah. Hershel of Ostropel was walking down the road. He was tired and hungry. Nonetheless, his step was light. Soon he would reach the next village, where bright candles, merry songs, and platters piled high with tasty potato latkes awaited him. But when he arrived, the village was silent and dark. Not a single Hanukkah candle could be seen. "Isn't tonight the first night of Hanukkah?" Hershel asked the villagers. "We don't have Hanukkah, Hershel," one of them answered sadly. "No Hanukkah? How can that be?" "It's because of the goblins. They haunt the old synagogue at the top of the hill. They hate Hanukkah. Whenever we try to light a menorah, the goblins blow out the candles. They break our dreidels. They throw our potato latkes on the floor. Those wicked goblins make our lives miserable all year long, but on Hanukkah it's really bad. Oy vey." Hershel knew he must help the village people. "I'm not afraid of goblins," he said. "Tell me how to get rid of them." "It's not that easy as you think," the rabbi warned. "You must spend each night of the 8 nights in the old synagogue. The Hanukkah candles must be lit each night. On the 8th night itself, the king of the goblins must light the candles. This is the only way to break them of his power." "I'm not afraid, Rabbi," Hershel said. "If I can't outwit him a few goblins, then my name isn't Hershel of Ostropel." The villagers wished Hershel good luck. They had no potato latkes to give him, so they packed him several hard-boiled eggs to eat, along with a big jar of pickles. The rabbi gave Hershel a brass menorah, a package of candles, and a box of matches. Then the villagers said goodbye. No one expected to see Hershel again. It was long past sundown by the time Hershel climbed his way to the old synagogue. The crumbling building was gloomy and dark, and rusty hinges squeaked as Hershel opened the door. He shuddered. Well could he believe that goblins lived here. He put 2 candles on the menorah and set it on the windowsill. He struck a match and lit the shamish. He said the blessings and was about to light the other candle when he heard a voice. "Hey, what are you doing?" Hershel turned around. There was a goblin no bigger than a horsefly with a long pointy tail and 2 little bat wings hovering in the air. "I'm lighting the Hanukkah candles," Hershel said. "Tonight is the first night of Hanukkah." "Oh, no, it's not. We don't allow Hanukkah. Not around here." "Is that so?" said Hershel. "Who's going to stop me? A little pipsqueak like you?" "I may be little, but I'm strong," said the goblin. "Really? Can you crush a rock in your hand?" asked Hershel. The goblin laughed. "Crush rocks? You're joking. Nobody's that strong." "I am. Watch." Hershel took a hard-boiled egg from his pocket and squeezed it until the yolk and the white ran through his fingers. It's a hard-boiled egg. What yolk? "That's how hard I'm going to squeeze you if you try to stop me from lighting the candles." The little goblin's eyes opened wide, since in the dim light the egg looked exactly like a rock. The little goblin shook with fear. "You leave me alone," he squeaked. "Gladly," said Hershel, "if you let me light the candles in peace." "All right," said the goblin. "One night won't make a difference, but you better not be here tomorrow. Bigger, scarier goblins are coming, much bigger than I. If they catch you lighting Hanukkah candles, you'll be sorry." "We'll see about that," Hershel said to himself, and he lit the first candle. On the second night, another goblin appeared. This one was big and fat and waddled like a goose. Hershel was finishing his dinner of pickles and hard-boiled eggs. "Have some pickles," he said to the goblin. "Pickles? Here, catch." Hershel tossed him a sour pickle. The goblin caught it in his mouth and swallowed it. Pickles are good." "Do you like them? I have plenty in this jar. Take all you want." The greedy goblin grabbed as many pickles as his claw could hold, but when he tried to pull his fist out of the jar, he couldn't. "I'm stuck!" the goblin shouted. "You put a spell on this jar to hold me fast." "That's right," said Hershel, laughing. "And it's a very powerful spell, too. You came here tonight to stop me from lighting Hanukkah candles, so now I'm going to light them while you stand there with your hand on the jar and watch. How do you like that?" "No! No!" the goblin screamed. "I hate Hanukkah." "Too bad. You'll have to get used to it." Hershel said the blessings and lit the candles slowly. He then sang his favorite Hanukkah song. The goblin wailed and carried on so much that Hershel finally decided to let him go. "Shall I tell you the secret to break the spell?" Yes, I can't stand it anymore." "Let go of the pickles. Your greed is the only spell holding you prisoner." The goblin let go of the pickles. His hand slipped out of the jar easily. How that goblin raged. He had stood with his hand in the pickle jar while Hershel lit the Hanukkah candles under his nose. The furious goblin stamped his foot so hard that he shattered into a million pieces and the wind blew him away.
What?
The third night came. Hershel felt something watching him as he set the candles on the menorah. Instead of lighting them, he decided to start playing with his dreidel. An hour passed. Hershel looked up. Sitting across the table was another goblin. This one had a fiery red face and 2 enormous horns. "It's getting late," the goblin said. "When are you going to light the candles?" "Later. There's plenty of time." Hershel spun his dreidel. "This is more fun." "What are you playing with?" the goblin asked. "It looks like a top." "It's a dreidel. Don't you know about dreidels?" "No." "Too bad. Dreidels are a lot of fun. You can also make a lot of money if you know how to play." "Really?" The goblin was interested now. All goblins like money. This one was no exception. "How do you play?" "It's very simple," Hershel said. "But you have to have gold. That's the first rule." "I have plenty of gold. Is this enough?" The goblin poured a large pile of coins onto the table. "That's fine," said Hershel. "Listen carefully now. This is the letter Shin. If it comes up, you give me a handful of gold. This is the letter Hey. If it comes up, you give me half your gold. This is the letter Gimel. If it comes up on Gimel, you give me all of your gold. Understand?" "Wait, there's one more letter. What's this one?" "That's Nun. If the dreidel falls on Nun, I don't give you anything. Ready? Let's play. You go first." The goblin spun the dreidel. The little top whirled round and round. Then it fell. The letter on top was shin. Too bad, said Hershel, taking a big handful of the goblin's gold. Try again. Maybe you'll have better luck. The goblin spun the dreidel once more. This time it fell on hay. This isn't your night, said Hershel, helping himself to more gold. Once more, your luck is bound to improve. Once again, the goblin spun. This time the dreidel landed on Gimel. Too bad. Hershel sighed as he took the rest of the goblin's gold. Would you like me to spin? Yes. The goblin grumbled. He was very unhappy about losing his money. Hershel spun the dreidel. This time the letter was Nun. Oh my, I don't give you anything. I get to keep it all. Say, that was fun. Get some more gold. We'll play again. What about the Hanukkah candles? We'll light them later. There's plenty of time. Not for me. The goblin said, I'm leaving now. I don't like this game. And I don't like Hanukkah. And I don't like you. Don't go, Hershel pleaded. I know lots of games. Stay a while. We'll have fun. Goodbye. The goblin spread his wings and swooped out the door and flew off into the night. Hershel lit the candles all by himself. On the following nights, the other goblins came. One had 6 heads, the other had 3 eyes. All were terrible and fierce. They growled and roared and changed themselves into horrible shapes. They tried to stop Hershel from lighting the Hanukkah candles, but Hershel fooled them all. Finally, the 7th night arrived. 8 tiny candles flickered on the windowsill. Hershel sat back and enjoyed their light. Where were the goblins? Had they given up? Hershel felt very sleepy. His eyes closed. Suddenly he sat up. He heard a horrible sound, a voice that sounded like cracking bones. Happy Hanukkah, Hershel of Ostrapel. Who is it? Who's there? Don't you know who I am, Hershel? Weren't you expecting the king of the goblins? The voice rose to a hurricane roar. It ripped the shingles from the synagogue roof and shattered the windows. The Hanukkah candles reeled in savage blast, but they did not go out. You're too early, Hershel shrieked. You're not supposed to come until tomorrow. The great wind died down. Don't worry, Hershel. I am far away, but I have the power to see and speak to you. Enjoy this Hanukkah evening, my friend. It will be your last. Tomorrow night I will come for you. You fooled my slaves, the other goblins. Let's see if you can fool me. Poor Hershel! What was he to do? The king of the goblins was on his way, and no power on earth could stop him. Unless... Hershel had an idea. It was a big chance, but he had to take it. It was the only way to save himself and Hanukkah. It was the last night of Hanukkah. Hershel set the candles in the menorah, but instead of placing them on the windowsill, he put the menorah and the box of matches on the table near the door. Then he sat down and waited. Night fell. It grew dark as pitch inside the gloomy old synagogue. Outside, the whole world lay cold and silent. Suddenly, a great gust ripped the synagogue door from the hinges. The whole building shook. A fearsome voice spoke. Hershel of Ostrapel. Did I hear something? It is I, king of the goblins. Hershel laughed. Don't be silly. You're one of the boys from the village. You're trying to scare me. I'm not a boy. I'm the king of the goblins. I'll believe it when I see it. Show yourself to me. Behold, I stand before you. Do you believe me now? Hershel tried not to look. Even in the darkness, he could see the outline of the monstrous shape filling the doorway. A figure too horrible to describe. He pretended not to care. It's too dark. I can't see anything. A candlestick and some matches are by the doorway. Why don't you light a few and I'll be able to see you? Indeed, you shall. A match flared. The Shamish candle caught the flame. Hershel's blood turned to water at the awful sight before him, but he could not lose courage. Master of the world, he silently prayed. Thou who created the heavens and the earth, and the spirits of the air, stand by me now. Then he addressed the goblin. It's still too dark. What are you afraid of? There are plenty of candles. Why not light them all? A hideous hand took the Shamish candle and lit the other ones one by one. Hershel felt himself growing faint, but he forced himself to look. His eyes grew wider and wider as each candle caught the flame. 6, 7, 8. The king of the goblins now stood before him. Now, Hershel, do you know who I am? Well, you're not Queen Esther. Very funny, Hershel. Enjoy the joke. It will be your last. That's what you think. Be gone, or I'll take a stick to you. How dare you speak to the king of the goblins that way? I'll speak to you how I please. You have no power. Your spell is broken. See, the menorah is lit. You thought those were ordinary candles, but they weren't. They were the Hanukkah candles, and you lit them yourself. The king of the goblins roared with fury. The earth trembled and a mighty wind arose. It ripped off the synagogue roof and blew down the walls. It splintered the great timbers and scattered them like matchsticks. Around the menorah, the whirlwind howled, but the candles never flickered. They burned with clear, steady flame. The king of the goblins had no power over them. The spirit of Hanukkah triumphed. The great wind vanished as suddenly as it had arisen. Hershel rubbed his eyes. The night was as still as before, even though the synagogue was gone. Walls, floor, roof, even the foundation stones had vanished, but the menorah remained, standing tall upon the little table where Hershel had placed it. Hershel waited until the last candle burned out. Then he started down the road that led to the village. I'd better hurry, he thought. I don't want to miss out on the last night of Hanukkah. But there was no reason to worry. In every window there stood a menorah with 9 gleaming candles to light the way. The whole village was waiting for him. And that was Hershel and the Hanukkah Goblins! We are very convinced now that the Wolfman shall be excommunicated from the Jewish faith. So we hope that you enjoyed this little adventure in a storybook. Reading is fun and fundamental. Enjoy the rest of this holiday season and take care.
Next year in Jerusalem!
Oh, the bloopers are going to be amazing.
Amazing. Great, great stuff.